I've been a lifelong wrestling fan. My dad is who introduced me to wrestling. I can remember probably as young as like maybe 4 or 5 years old.
5 years old, so it would have been 2003.
Sitting in the living room and watching wrestling with my dad.
My grandpa liked watching wrestling, like everybody's classic grandpa watching WWF, you know. I started out definitely Ruthless Aggression era.
I remember as young back as I can anyways. My brother and I would always wrestle around even before we even watched wrestling. And so that's kind of always been a part of me. About the time that I started actually watching wrestling was when I was like, I could do that.
I feel like this is like an AA meeting and we're confessing.
Hi, my name's Allie and I'm a wrestling addict.
That's right, we are back.
Hello, hello.
What's going on, people? My name is Tyler Martin.
And I'm Allie Myers.
And this is Wrestling in the Midwest.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it. What do you got going on over there?
All right. So it seems that the main topic in the whole wrestling news right now is the whole Vince McMahon possibly returning, or maybe already has. So that seems to be like a big deal. And as wrestling fans, a lot of us are kind of concerned with how the outcome might be, because the way Vince handles things, you know, I know he's like big dog, but like a lot of us already kind of like what Triple H and Stephanie are doing with the company as of right now. I looked up and seen that on the actual WWE website, they were given some like updates on it. And in this, it says WWE provides updates regarding composition of its board of directors and exploration of strategic alternatives. And there's discussion that they're talking about selling the company and looking to the highest bidders to sell the company to. And that's also scary because WWE is it's a big thing. It's its own, at this point, I think it's its own like entity at this point. It's huge. So what I was reading out of it, it says that that they were welcoming back some people that they had let go originally. And then down here it says, as Vince McMahon, if I can speak, give me just a second. It says, as Vince McMahon stated, WWE has an exceptional management team in place, and I do not intend for my return to have any impact on their roles, duties, and or responsibilities. But there's still a part of me that's a little concerned as a fan.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on it?
I don't know, man. This is... I didn't want to believe it at first, but it's obvious. I mean, all the valid news sources are talking about it now, so.
Yeah, see, at first I thought, oh, this is clever. They're using it as a storyline. They're using it as a way to ruffle our feathers, get our attention. That's very clever. That's very creative. And now I'm like, oh, well, they're selling the company. Obviously, they need the biggest shareholder himself to be present if they're going to sell the company, so it makes sense.
Yeah, but who do you think would be a good owner if Vince is not?
That's a good question. I don't know. I can't picture anybody else obtaining WWE other than his kids. You know what I mean? Other than Stephanie or Shane, or even like maybe the grandkids if they're old enough. And they, you know what I mean?
Almost. But I thought you were going to say Grand Canyon.
Or even the Grand Canyon.
Could you imagine the Grand Canyon owning WWE?
Wide open spaces. And then WWE's logo comes up.
God damn it. Oh, man.
Yeah, that seems to be like the main concern. I guess a lot of people are worried that Vince is going to dip his toes into the creative that they've worked so hard to build back up. And they're worried that he's got outdated views so that he may ruin content. So I guess that's where it's blurring the lines for me, where I can't tell if this is like a serious thing or if this is a storyline to get our reaction and to bring ratings up.
Yeah,
or if it's just because they're selling the company. There's so many things I've been sitting here thinking on.
Yeah, I think the fact that they haven't mentioned it on the actual show would kind of say it's probably not a storyline, because usually if they talk about something backstage, they usually bring that to the show immediately.
It was me, Austin. It was me
Yeah.
all along.
Oh, son of a bitch. Fucking JR.
Damn you, McMahon.
By God.
By God.
But yeah, I don't know. I got worried. I was like, at the same time, I think it was inevitable that he will probably be in charge again, but I don't know. I've read where he's saying that he's going to sell it, but actually what they think he's going to end up doing is just come back and just take it like he had it. And his only way to weasel himself in there to do that is to have the intention of selling, but really he's just going to end up doing what he's got to do, which I hope that's not the case, because yeah, I've heard also that there's some superstars that are, even some that were recently hired back, that are like kind of ready to quit if he does end up back in charge. So that might be shaky too.
See, I've kind of read off and on that there was a lot of current superstars that were really concerned.
Yeah.
And that were thinking about leaving and going to other companies if Vince returned. And that's kind of a scary thought. It makes you kind of wonder what kind of person maybe Vince has become over the years, or what kind of businessman he is, or whatever, or maybe how hard he is to work with.
Yeah.
Or once again, maybe this is a storyline. I can't really tell. I'm all about it though, because I kind of miss the whole kayfabe thing.
Yeah.
Blurred the lines between real and fake. I kind of like that.
Right. They've done that several times here recently, but they haven't like gone full force into that, which I think if it's all questionable, it's kind of taken away. Like, you got to have some things that it's obvious it's a storyline, because it's entertainment at the end of the day. So,
I mean, if he, like, the selling the company part, I do believe that's a real deal. That's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like with like the kind of reactions we're getting out of Vince McMahon returning,
yeah, it's kind of sad.
They could
kind of scary.
It is, but they could really make a storyline out of that if they
Yeah,
wanted
they
to.
could.
It was me all along.
Yeah. I was running the damn thing. God damn it, I was here the whole time. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like I keep reading all these things about it. Like there was a news article written by, it says Wrestling Headliners. And it says WWE officials held their all hands on deck meeting at company headquarters this afternoon. And this article, I'm not sure when it was dated. I don't see the date on it, but says this was not a talent meeting. The meeting was held via call. Meeting was held to address Vince McMahon's return to the WWE Board of Directors and his plan to pursue a sale of the company. The meeting was originally scheduled to begin at 3:30 p.m., but it didn't start until 3:45 and ran for around 10 minutes. And it says that Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, and then President and CFO Frank A. Reddick III led the call.
Man.
It was announced that McMahon is officially back on the board of directors, but it was reiterated that there will be no changes to management or their responsibilities at this time, according to PW Insider. Fightful Select adds that it was stressed to the employees that the day-to-day operations across the company are not changing.
Good.
Yeah, I think
How long, though?
Yeah, that's what I'm
You know
wondering.
what I'm saying?
It was also pushed that the move with Vince was a big positive and was made to give the company everything they needed to make the most of their future rights, revenue sales such as the new TV deals for Raw and SmackDown, among others, as well as to gauge the market for a potential sale of the company, with the idea that with McMahon back, the entire company would be on the same page and maximizing WWE's potential leading into the future.
Yeah, I just want to enjoy it the way it is for now, and hopefully just keep our fingers crossed and try to enjoy it while it lasts, because I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
And it's sad that the sole owner of what's most people would say the man that changed the business into what it is now, people don't have faith in him anymore. It's kind of sad, but it's true, though.
Well, yeah.
It's valid.
That is kind of wild to think about. He literally took over after his dad, and he built this empire for wrestling.
Yeah.
And I obviously none of us know him personally. We don't know what kind of like mindset he has, but it almost sounds like maybe he's stuck in some old ways, or maybe he just thinks really different. Like maybe he thinks differently than other people. When
I don't know about stuck in old ways though, because if that was the case, then like the way the production is now wouldn't be the way it is, because it's very up to date. You know what
I
I'm
wasn't
saying?
talking as far as like
Oh,
presentation,
you're talking the actual.
like the content itself.
content
maybe
itself,
maybe
yeah.
like maybe his creative
The
thinking
writing, yeah.
isn't like, maybe it isn't what most would want.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, if everybody's like, "Oh, I don't want him back. I don't want him back," obviously they're worried that he's going to ruin the content.
Yeah. I'm gonna tilt your camera down because
Tilt.
I didn't think to do that when we were getting ready to do this. All right, there you go.
I'm short.
Yeah.
Somebody else in this room is really tall,
Yeah.
and I'm short. It's okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it.
I'm trying not to think about it, but I
Yeah.
feel like as far as like WWE news, it is everywhere.
It is. At first I was like, dude, why do these people make this shit up? Because a lot of times people make shit up. And
Yeah, I feel like people just kind of like take something and run with it, and then it just
Yeah.
blows up into nonsense.
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why these people, like, we just kind of talk about our opinions, but I'm never gonna have a website that talks about what's going on backstage when I'm not there. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck. I just want to watch the show and analyze that.
Well, how do we know with like Vince being as powerful as he is that he doesn't have people that he's hired to speak for him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe they don't. Maybe in some cases, if he's busy because he's a businessman, maybe he's got somebody that like takes on some of those reporters
Could
for
be.
him. You know, hey, if they ask these particular questions, this is how you answer it.
Yeah, it seems like it's made up bullshit half the time. Like Dave Meltzer, for example. Like, you gotta take what he says with a grain of salt, because,
It's like playing telephone.
yeah.
Somebody says something, and then he's like, "What?" And then, yeah.
Yeah, I like to entertain some of the news. I mean, we've talked about a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff, so I don't want to contradict myself and say that I don't like that, but I don't go so deep into... That's why I was kind of annoyed about the Cody Rhodes thing, because regardless of what ended up happening, nobody actually knew. And that's why I was annoyed the whole time, because it was obvious that these people were just spouting off what they thought was going to happen and acting like they knew it was going to happen. Like, yeah, maybe it was inevitable, but, like, why? Like, let's just be surprised for once, you know?
The only thing about that one, like, it started becoming more and more evident that it was him as time went on, and it started building up. It's like you at some point you couldn't deny it.
Yeah. But there was never any, like hints towards Cody Rhodes. You know what I'm saying? They didn't,
No.
like, have any... They didn't have any, like, keywords that they said or anything like that. Like, it was legitimately a open challenge.
It's kind of like, I think that's kind of the downfall of how like social media's progressed to
Yeah.
where it is now, and the way everybody reports everything. Because I feel like, and I'm sure we've had this discussion many times before, it's just like you can't have any surprises anymore. There's always like somebody with a spoiler now. And it's like, man, you just ruined that big moment. This could have been huge. This particular superstar could have got the pop they deserved, and you ruined it because you already told everybody that they're coming back like 2 days before it's supposed to happen.
Right. Now, with the Cody Rhodes thing, there was no possible way you could ruin that. But just imagine the amount of shock that people would have had if they absolutely just didn't know. Like, I almost wish that was there a no-compete clause with his AEW contract? Because, I mean, there was a distance of time between...
I know he had to wait.
Yeah.
I know there was like a waiting period in between contracts, and
I'm trying to figure out why there was. Because if it was a no-compete clause, fuck those things, by the way. Who cares? Like, if somebody, like, let's say our production was like, huge and popular or whatever. If somebody wanted to go on a different production, let's say this is like a cable network, like this is Fox, let's say. I wouldn't care if somebody left my company and went straight to another one. Go work. Like, what are non-compete clauses for? I think they're stupid.
I just thought it all had to do with when you become a wrestler and you're able to move up to a big league. I thought it had to do with whatever was in the contract that they signed.
Yeah.
So I would figure if you didn't want to have to deal with something like that, you really need to read the fine print before you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to be.
Well, I just think it's stupid that they're not allowed to make money elsewhere, period.
It's almost like they own you.
Right.
Like you're, well, if you think about it, they become a brand if they become, if they take off, they're a brand. So to a point, yeah, it makes sense. You're a brand now.
Okay, so if they use the brand name, why not just have that company take percentage of their earnings if they use that brand?
Well, I would think, I guess if it had to do with brands, then I was sitting here thinking about it.
Like John Cena, for instance, the money he makes, percentage of that goes to the company, even though, like Hollywood, even though the WWE has nothing to do with that. They own his name. They've trademarked his name. Therefore, any money he makes, a percentage of that goes. He was actually on Howard Stern talking about that because Howard Stern was asking if he was upset about that, and he's like, "No, they've done a lot for me, but not everybody, and maybe rightfully so, would have that attitude."
Well, I also thought that sometimes when superstars cross over into a different ring or into a different business, a lot of time they'll change their name because of the trademarking too.
Right. So what's the point of the non-complete if you're changing? You know?
I don't know. It's like you're being stubborn with your wrestlers.
Yeah, I would never slap a non-compete clause on any contract if I owned something like that.
I feel like that.
And maybe I'm just a bad businessman. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like that's something that we would have to like figure out how to research to understand because I don't think I fully comprehend why they do it.
Yeah,
I just thought maybe it was.
Jamie, can you look that up for me?
Yeah, where you at?
Hey, Jamie, where you at? Come on the show, Jamie.
Come on the show.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why those things exist. I think that's just petty, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, I have you first. You know what I mean? That's, maybe I'm looking
You're
at
right.
that wrong.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying it's stupid. I agree, but it's dumb. Like, that's prideful and stupid. Like, if somebody blew up because of me, then that's good on them. Like, it may not have just been me. It's just I helped them. That don't mean it's all me. Like, let's say your show blows up, and ours this one blows up before yours. I'm not gonna take all the credit for that because that one's all you. Like, I just got it started a little bit. Like, I just run the camera. Like, I don't do much.
I feel like when it comes to this kind of thing, it's like a team effort. So I wouldn't want to overshadow anybody because like everybody plays their part in making their podcast. So I would hope everybody would get noticed, not just me because I'm sitting here in front of the camera or, you know what I mean? Like,
but if it's natural, if somebody, like, for instance, if people that are watching this hate me but like you and that's why they watch, good for them.
But then I'd be like, vote for Tyler.
Yeah. See, that's
look at him.
That's where we differ, I guess.
You're just like, I don't give a.
Like, I'm not saying I want people to hate me, but at the same time, if people watch the show and they still get something out of it, even though they don't like one person, then that's fine.
Well, and
I'll make that sacrifice. I don't care.
we're also getting old enough to realize that, like, if someone doesn't like us or doesn't care for us, technically it's none of our business and it shouldn't bother us, you know.
Yeah.
You got any news on your side?
So I heard that Roman Reigns was going to. So there's kind of a panic, right? Like, once Triple H got in charge of creative, there was talk that there was kind of panic as far as how are we going to split the WWE and Universal titles back into two different titles, because they want to have Roman Reigns be the champion for a lot longer, but they also want somebody else to, like Cody Rhodes, for instance, to be WWE champion. And they also have a predicament, too, that since he's won the Universal Championship, it's been a clean record and he has not been pinned. So how can they take those titles away from him without having him get pinned so he can continue his clean record until he actually loses the title that he started with in this current reign that he's in? So
Wouldn't it have to be by like disqualification or something?
yeah, but disqualification doesn't change the outcome of a title change. It doesn't make a
Well,
title
I guess
change.
that is true because I thought, well, maybe if he got disqualified somehow.
Yeah.
Well, he lost, but I guess he is still carrying the. Well,
Yeah, so I guess they're already in the works as far as how they're going to have that happen, and it's kind of genius if you ask me. So I don't know if you saw how Raw started this week,
No, I need to catch
but
up.
it started off with the Bloodline minus Roman Reigns. They came on the show and pretty much invaded the show and beat up camera crew, referees, all that. They pretty much pulled a Nexus without tearing up the ring and stuff like that. But Adam Pearce came out and kicked them out pretty much, and they beat up those security too. So then they had superstars come out and they started beating up superstars too, which you don't see that very often. Usually they scurry off once the superstars get involved, but no, they fought the superstars as well. But so he was like, I'm sick of the bloodline getting by with all this crap or whatever. He was like, starting right now, you guys aren't getting away with it anymore. So I think the invasions are going to continue, and I think that's where Roman Reigns is going to get stripped of the WWE Championship because he has both titles. He's originally on SmackDown, and he wins this title, and now he's like having his bloodline beat the shit out of people on a show that he doesn't come on very often, that he doesn't represent. So they're going to look for a way, storyline wise, they're going to look for a way to get the Raw title off of him so he won't be allowed to be on Raw. So he won't be able to do that.
I wonder if they'll play into the storyline.
So-
And we've said it on like I think on one of our other podcasts. Like at some point, when they do go to actually take it from him,
Yes.
like I wonder when, because usually you can see it coming if
Yeah.
you're like a fan, like watching a really good storyline. There's usually like
Hints.
a crack or you start seeing them crumble. I wonder if they do decide to roll with that and figure out how to split the title, I wonder if that'll be the start of him starting to maybe panic a little bit as his character, like,
thing-
oh my gosh, you know what?
Yeah. The thing is,
Or if he's just going to stay tough until the end and then get humbled.
I think that's probably what's going to happen. Because I think the moment he looks the strongest is going to be the time that he actually loses. Because it almost seems right now that he's on his last leg. Because every defense, not every, but since Drew McIntyre, I don't know if you noticed how nervous he kind of acted with
Yeah,
Drew. Like he
I've
seemed like he
noticed it.
feared Drew a little bit because he knew he had the qualifications to actually be able to beat him. And he almost did. So that could have been the end of his reign easily if that was the case. Then he had Logan Paul, which he was kind of worried about that one too, but he wasn't admitting it to himself.
Well, Logan Paul actually, like, I'm not a huge fan, but I got to give props to that boy because, I mean, that ended up being a really good match.
It
That
was a
actually
good match.
surprised me. He, like, impressed me a little bit. And then Drew McIntyre, I wouldn't even be mad at that at all if he ended up taking it from him. That would have been a good one.
Yeah, a lot of people I've heard are leaning towards Gunther, actually. So that would be interesting, but because he's undefeated right now on the main
Well,
roster.
that would make sense then, wouldn't it?
And he's also a champion,
They're both heels.
and they're both heels.
So that storyline could lead to one of them turning face,
Right.
or both, or
Or not at all.
not at all.
Yeah. I like to see it. Don't happen very often either. I like to see two heels face each other.
I can't even think of a time when two heels faced each other unless it was like in some sort of like a Royal Rumble or like a Fatal 4-Way or something where there's multiple people. I don't know.
The biggest one I can think of is when the Shield faced the Wyatt family. Because at that time, both of them were heels, but they got betrayed by the Wyatt family, but still remained heels.
I'm about to say the only time I ever see it happen is like in matches where there's multiple people, maybe like tag team matches or something, and like or like a 5-on-5 or something, and you get two people that just kind of like are clearing house, and they turn around, they both happen to be heels, and then they're facing each other, and all of a sudden you see a little turn and a little pop for one being
One of them.
for one of them, and
Right.
sometimes it leads to a face turn, and it ends up being great.
That's cool. Yeah. I wonder how often that is organized and how often that is just, it happens. And
I
they
don't
just
know.
run with it.
Because normally, they just keep it pretty basic. You got your good guy and you got your bad guy.
Yeah. Recently, they've kind of blurred that too, which I like.
Oh, that's fine with me. It makes it more interesting. Bray Wyatt, good example.
Yes. He's playing both sides right now. Nobody knows. He don't even know what's wrong with it or what he's doing.
Stone Cold is
Yeah.
another good one.
Yeah.
Like technically,
He didn't change.
He's like an anti-hero.
Yeah. He didn't change at all, heel or face. He was just the same no matter what.
Yeah. Basically, yeah,
Yeah.
he was just himself the entire time. The only thing that would cause Stone Cold to be a bad guy is when he went. I guess you would call him corporate back then, like when he teamed up with. But even then,
Corporate.
you could not hate Stone Cold in that time period. You just couldn't. You ended up loving him more.
Corporate cold. Corporate cold.
Corporate Cold Steve Austin.
Corporal.
Corporal.
Corporal. Marine Corps.
No, I'd be okay with that match though, Gunther and Roman Reigns. I'd be
Yeah.
okay with that.
But I don't think that's going to happen for a while because I think they still have some things to do with Gunther to build him up to be worthy of. But like I said, Roman Reigns is going to look the strongest, I think, and it's going to be a shock. That's what I think. I think he's going to be a babyface when he does lose because that would only make sense because people that hate him don't want him to be champion, obviously. And if he's a heel, then they're going to get what they want. But if they switch it and he's a babyface, then they still get the disappointment factor and the heat or whatever for whoever ends up beating him.
Well, I was just thinking, yeah, well, it could go that way, or I thought maybe he, instead of it, well, I guess it depends on how they want to do the storyline, but it could actually maybe make Roman Reigns bitter. And,
No.
and they always talk about how there's this possibility he's going to go Hollywood like some of the other ones have.
Yep.
He could get bitter and pull a Batista and be like, you know what? You took that from me. I don't have nothing to work for now. I'm done. I quit. And that could change Gunther to a babyface. Aha, I took it. Or, like you said, he could stay heel and Gunther has it, and now he's like, I'm the most powerful, and that could kick off a whole new storyline for him and build him up.
Yep.
This is going to be interesting.
That's the only one I can think of that would be cool right now for the future.
I'm about to
Because
say it would have to be Gunther or Cody Rhodes. Those are the only ones that I can think of, other than Drew McIntyre, that might
Yeah.
be worthy of it.
now, personally, it's been 2020, so 2 years now. It's getting into 3. How long does this reign last before people don't care? Or does that even happen?
I think people are getting burnt out. Like
think
if
so?
Oh yeah, like I think the fan base is just kind of
On the reign itself or the material? Because
I think just
the material is great right now.
the material is good. I think they're just getting tired of seeing it. They're like, because now they feel like it's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Like they already know beforehand that, oh, it's a Roman Reigns match. He's obviously going to keep it because he's had it for so long. So I feel like when he does lose it, it's going to be a huge shock.
Yeah, just imagine from now, think about 3 years of him just barely holding on. That's intriguing as fuck.
It is.
That's 2 minutes left when in overtime and they're tied in a
I think
basketball
he's
game.
sitting at 800 and some odd days right now.
It's getting close to 1,000. He will be well over 1,000, or he will be closer to 1,000 come WrestleMania.
When I wonder what some of the legends before him think of that, as far as him being a title holder that long, because he's starting to like beat records of people that have. I mean, and I'm talking like well-known names that have had the title before him. So it just I'm gonna have to dig into that. I'm always interested to see like what other wrestlers think of it, like in their character or whatever, what they think of it.
Right. I like the way his character has evolved since he won that. Like, he's keeping it interesting. So I personally don't see the burnout, but you just aren't a huge fan of Roman Reigns too, so that's probably part of it for you, I would assume.
No, I was just kind of like, if I follow like the Roman Reigns storyline, because I think the Bloodline is a good story,
Yes.
and I love the fact that they've gotten Sami Zayn involved in it now. And then watching them be heels, I feel like it's really brought out a lot of their potential. Like, you can really see how good they all are. And besides, like the Samoan dynasty in WWE, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. They all have the capability to be legendary. I mean, just look at who was legendary before him, The Rock, and then you had Yokozuna, you had their uncles, you had like Rikishi,
Sika,
Sika, yes. So like
the Wild Samoan,
the Wild Samoans,
The Rock. I mean,
The
all
Rock's
legends.
father, his grandfather,
Rocky Johnson, yeah.
and then Chief Peter Maivia.
Via, yep.
So the storyline is good. I'm following the storyline, but like if you were to get on social media and follow the WWE and look at the way the fans respond to it, I think they're just kind of getting to the point where like, well, we already know he's going to win. I think they're getting to a point where they're like, okay, we're tired of seeing him with it. But I don't think anybody has actually made comments on who they think should be the title holder next. Everybody's just right now just kind of stuck on, oh my God, again. I'm tired of it.
Now, Bruno Sammartino has the longest reign of all time.
Legend.
2,803 days. So that means that Roman Reigns would have to hold it for 3 more years. If they're going to have him beat it. Is he even going to wrestle that long? That's the biggest question.
Though, because wrestling's different now than it was back then, because that was still in territory, so it was smaller wrestling venues.
Right.
So you could hold it longer.
Right, because they only wrestle like once a month.
And they had smaller crowds.
Let's see. Now, is this one reign or is this total? Because that might change the whole. Let's see.
Also, if he were to lose his title, lose his streak, so to speak, do you think any of would it break up the bloodline, or would the bloodline stay together and then somebody else in the bloodline step up and try to go get it back?
I don't know. I think, and I've said this before on the show, but I really think Roman Reigns keeps the title until he's done wrestling full time. Period. Well, not full time because he's not wrestling full time right now. But
well, that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah. Like when he gets ready to go do his thing in Hollywood, that's when he's going to drop it. But like we still don't know who it's going to be to and what they're going to do with the bloodline or the storyline after that.
How old is Roman Reigns?
He's got to be 38.
He's 37. Maybe. So.
Ah.
I could see him just because of him having leukemia. You know, he's not as healthy. Even at full throttle, he's not quite as healthy as most of the roster, I would assume. I could see him going to maybe 42.
I could see him doing something like Randy Orton or even Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho, I think, is 50 now. Yeah. Or in his early 50s. I don't
think Roman Reigns he'll be well retired by the time he's 50, I think.
Maybe like Edge, maybe just mid-40s.
Yeah, I think 42, 43 maybe. So if that's the case, then that's 5 more years. So if he sticks around for 5 more years, that'll be a 7 to 8 year reign, which will be like triple.
Oh Lord!
You know what I'm saying? And I really think that him not competing will be the time that he loses it. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know if anybody would want to see somebody be a reigning champion longer than like the couple of years he already has. I feel like it'll
Now-
become stale, it'll become old. Or if I look on a positive side of it, this would be an opportunity for our new creative to come up with to be creative and to come up with like good storylines that's like, how can we trick them and get
Yeah.
him to stay? Oh, I
Like,
don't
just
know how I feel
imagine
about that.
every title reign for the next 3 years, if he keeps it, is he almost loses every time. Like, it's one of those kind of situations.
I just wonder how long you could actually keep that up to obtain that kind
Yeah.
of goal, because eventually your audience base is just going to be like, we already know he's going to win somehow.
Yeah,
Maybe if you can get creative enough, you could keep him invested on how.
right. Now, with Paul Heyman helping out with the creative, most likely probably mostly creative, or most of the creative control on that situation, I have a lot of faith in him, obviously. The Drew McIntyre thing was kind of the birth of him possibly losing. You know, them kind of hinting at the possibility that he could lose. With Logan Paul, I was like, all right, this is going to be an obvious squash match. You know what I'm saying? And then they made it a credible, like, the story before the match, I was like, damn, maybe he could win. You know what I'm saying?
The minute that they showed him training with Shawn Michaels, I'm like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
he's taking this seriously.
Yeah. See what I mean? Like, they built that perfect. So what if they built everything like that for the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh God,
That'd be crazy.
you better be doing some crazy stuff to keep
Yeah.
me invested in a storyline where somebody just keeps winning.
Right. Now, Finn Balor, they did have, when he faced the demon Finn Balor, that was an intriguing one because he had a streak too. The Finn Balor, the demon character, had never lost on the main roster until Roman Reigns took him out. But Roman Reigns won because the cables busted or whatever. He was on the top rope and he fell off because the cable, like, broke or something. So that was like a act of God pretty much to help him, you know, keep that title. So he's lucky to have it now because he could have easily won or he could have easily lost because during that match, Roman Reigns speared him like 3 times or something crazy, and through the barricade, all that shit. And Finn Balor's like little heartbeat thing or whatever the fuck that was going off, and he was like twitching, and all of a sudden his theme started playing, and he just rose up like he wasn't hurt at all after just getting speared like 100 times.
Pulled an Undertaker.
Yeah, and then right after that, he got fucked up by the ring ropes or whatever the fuck you want to call them.
See, that kind of leads me into the other storyline that's being rumored, and it's just rumored,
Yeah.
that supposedly there's going to be like an Edge return and he's going to take on Finn Balor. But while we were sitting here talking about Roman Reigns, I thought, you know, that would be an interesting match. That could make an interesting storyline if you had Edge against Roman Reigns, because Edge is talking about retiring possibly sometime this year.
Right.
Roman Reigns is talking about, like we said earlier, going to Hollywood.
Retirement match.
They could both simultaneously at the same time. But
Yeah.
then that would leave the championship up for grabs for somebody else, and then like it could humble Roman Reigns, he could leave, or Edge could retire, and then I don't know. I like either way. Like Edge could like take the championship and then take on who he wants to take on,
Right.
and that could lead into a different. I don't know. I was just sitting here thinking about that. I thought that would have been interesting because they're both wanting to leave. What would happen if you put them in a match together and they left at the same time?
Right. I honestly want to go back on the Gunther thing because I don't know. I don't know that. I don't think it would be something where they have a clean record versus clean record and that's who wins. Because I feel like it would be more likely to shock people if it was just like, just to say Daniel Bryan was on the roster still. Like, he's won and lost whatever. He's just regular schmegular guy. Like, he wins and loses like a normal person, not like Roman Reigns never losing, because Jesus. But to have somebody like him, or somebody like Seth Rollins, or somebody with no history at all with him, but still has like, well, can't think of one right now because they've all faced him.
You know what? You were talking about them splitting the championship up
Yes.
earlier. Or this could even go for when he does come to a point where he has
Right.
to drop the title.
Mm-hmm.
He's held it for so long. What if they pull something like a Montreal Screwjob?
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I just thought of like back then, like Brett didn't want to drop his title and he was getting ready to leave,
Yeah.
and they used Shawn Michaels to screw him over.
Right.
And there's still that blurred line on that story. So, not saying totally carbon copy that, because like people are going to know, but I just think it would be interesting. Like, what if you could come up with something
yeah,
on a way to screw him out of it? If like, oh, you're not going to take a pin, well, then I'm going to take it from you another way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of storyline you could come
It
up with
also
that, but that
could-
would be interesting.
It could also be like all these referees have dealt with Roman Reigns for 3 years. So let's say they go another 30 years. These referees have had enough of Roman Reigns maybe using his weight. So they turn on him and they make a decision that takes the title away. Like a fast count or
That would be interesting. Like all the referees are in it together.
yeah, like every referee is in a part of that match at some point because Roman Reigns keeps throwing them, like pulling them out on, or somebody from the bloodline, I should say. Like let's back up here. So
Retract.
Yeah, so Roman Reigns pins a guy, referee 1-2, one of the Usos tears the ref out, and then another one comes in, same thing happens, and then another one comes in, same thing happens. So then the last referee that comes out is like, you know what, fuck this guy. Boom, boom, boom. Like the guy rolls him up because he's distracted because he decided, you know what, 1, 2, stops the count and looks at Roman Reigns. Like normally that's a superstar that does
You
that
know
as a
what?
guest referee.
I was
but-
going to say a guest referee because we were talking about the possibility of Gunther maybe taking on Roman Reigns, and they're both heels. What if, like, Gunther's little buddy was a special guest referee?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or maybe they pick somebody from the back that's just getting sick and tired of it, and just they go down to count 1, 2, and then they just stand up.
You know what?
You know what? I don't feel like doing
Fuck
this right
guy.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that could be a possibility too. Him being screwed over. I like that you brought that up because that's I like that.
Because I feel like at this point, because the bloodline, with them being the heels and how many people they've screwed over and beat up, they've got it coming. So it would
Right.
make sense if somebody screwed him back
Right.
to try to steal his titles. He still doesn't get pinned,
Right.
but he still gets it taken from him.
Yeah.
Or maybe he gets it taken entirely. I don't know. I just thought that would be interesting, but what kind of storyline would you even come up with? I like the referee one, though.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. Like, especially if it was just the regular average
Right.
referees doing
Right.
it.
They've had enough because
Like they're on strike.
Yeah. Like that wrestling event we went to where all the refs kept getting the shit beat out of them.
And then it took old boy son coming out as
Yeah.
a ref throwing on a shirt. 1, 2, 3.
Right.
That would be good.
Yep.
We got anything else?
Yep. I don't know. I think that was a long-winded conversation about that one. No, I don't think there's anything else that I can think of, unless you got anything.
I don't really have anything that I can think of. I don't really see anything else because right now, like I said, the main topic's been Vince McMahon lately.
Right. Guess you could just plug your YouTube channel or something.
Well, if any of you guys are interested, I have my own podcast, and it's called The Squared Circle Scene. You can find me on YouTube. You can also find me on Spotify. So go check that out if you are into independent wrestling.
Yep, and there's links in the description down below for that if you're watching on YouTube. And there's also a link in the, I don't know what you call that on Spotify. I guess you can call it description as well. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Pretty in-depth conversation this time about pretty much two topics, and that was it. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that, and we will see you guys next time. You know what I'm saying?
Bye.
Have a good one.